this case, it would be like World War II and the Germans using propaganda. They just simply changed it, and apparently most people don't catch on to that. And that's such a basic idea, but that's what they do, and it works. Because automatically, if you ever use the term propaganda, even actually propaganda in itself is not a negative term. Propaganda just means like information to push your viewpoint. So if you had a viewpoint that we should not give children these disgusting vaccines, and you put it on some pamphlets and handed it out, that would technically be propaganda. But obviously, we all know that's a very good cause, but you could still call it propaganda. So propaganda is not really a bad term. It just got a negative connotation because obviously, the Germans and World War II and everything. So yeah, they just switched it from propaganda to public relations. And I guess the masses, they didn't realize that it was the exact same thing, and they were just being manipulated further. So what does the public relations machine look like in real life? Well, remember last year during the whole swine flu hype and the massive propaganda pushing the swine flu, criticizing anyone who said it wasn't good for you. And then, it's like a huge campaign. You can watch old news clips where they had this just insane hype, like, oh, swine flu is going to kill us all, get the vaccine. And that was big pharma, paying the major news companies and stuff to push this total BS scare tactic propaganda. They declared I think Obama declared like a state of emergency for the stupid swine flu. And just to sell their disgusting poison-filled vaccines. So that is what the PR mechanism here in America looks like. It's a worldwide thing. It's one of the globalists' main tools, public relations. So whenever you hear that term, try not to get nauseous from now on. And another thing would be like the war on terror. After 9/11, they had this huge propaganda machine infiltrating so many parts of society with this whole, give up your freedom or the terrorist boogeyman will get you. So that is what it looks like. It's a huge part of our world today. So it's a lot more than just public relations to help sell some stupid, some iPods or something. It goes into very ideas of what society should be like. The current philosophies, political philosophies of today. Everything. They manipulate every part of what human beings are to make us more manageable and, just treat us like sheep. And an important point to make is public relations. Most of the time, it doesn't look like a public relations campaign. You know what I mean? It's not blatantly. It's just not obvious. Like they find ways of hiding it. And actually, there's a great clip on the internet. A YouTube video I found of a guy who apparently he works in public relations, and he talks about how they do this. It's amazing, really. Here, I'll just let the clip speak for itself.
Techniques in public relations. One of the things about public relations is you don't want people to know that you're engaging in public relations. So if you're really good at it, you can exercise a public relations campaign and make it look like you're really not doing anything. And part of that strategy involves figuring out a way to get onto TV, get into a magazine, get your name into a newspaper or your company name into a newspaper. And that may involve the techniques of using something called press releases. That's a message or a note or an alert that you send out to the news media or that you put out online so that people know about what you're doing within your company. A well-written press release doesn't seem like a press release at all. You want to let people know what you're doing, but you want it to sound like a news article. So when people stumble upon it or read it, they have no idea that they're reading a press release. Or if a news reporter gets it and maybe is interested in a story, it looks like it's consumer-driven. It looks like there could be something for that company that the consumer might be interested in. One of their readers might be interested in it. They're not interested in putting your company on TV. They're not interested in putting your company in their magazine, but they are interested in catering to their readers or to their viewers. So the best public relations campaigns are the ones that don't look like campaigns at all. They are masqueraded as news events and news stories. So that's the best way to figure out to have a really good marketing campaign, and those are some of the secrets and the techniques involved. I'm Glenn Selig, president of Selig Multimedia.
So, what does this look like, or how would this work, you may ask? Well, for example, I'm going to show a clip here to actually show what it literally looks like, but just to describe it, it'd be like, say, for example, there's some news report that shows up on the Today Show, and they have one of the people reading it. It says, it turns out that taking antidepressants actually extends your life by 20 years. There was a study shown by blah 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 university, and then they'd go into whatever. I mean, that may sound silly, but here's a clip that just shows what this looks like in real everyday life. This one is amazing. Some of you may be familiar with this. It's just so over the top, but here it is.
Here's tonight's medical headlines with Medical Watch reporter Seema Mather.
Mercury-containing vaccines may help, not harm kids, according to 2 new studies in the journal Pediatrics. There have been widespread concerns that mercury-based preservatives in vaccines might impair the neurological development of children. These new studies suggest that the opposite, that the preservatives may actually be associated with improved behavior and mental performance.
Alright, so there we go, Bernays. That's the product of your disgusting public relations. If you didn't catch that, what that was is, this is when, a lot of people were saying, hey, there's mercury in the vaccines. Why is there this link between autism and vaccines? This mercury and stuff might not be good to be injecting into children. So, probably the way what happened was, Big Pharma, the big vaccine companies saw like, the stupid sheep are actually starting to realize that the mercury is not good for you. Quick, make up some bunk study that mercury actually improves children's mental abilities and health, and put it in some sort of doctor. They said like a journal of pediatrics. So yeah, just write this fake article, put it in there, and then we'll make sure it gets broadcasted on the news. Yeah, that'll work. The sheep will, they will never have any idea that this is just complete bunk. It's not funny, really. I mean, but it's just so stupid that people don't see through this. It just drives me absolutely insane. So, public relations, that's what public relations is. It could just be blatant lies. Everyone knows mercury is not good for you, okay? And thimerosal it's mercury, and yeah, public relations, they start getting worried that people are actually starting to find out that, they may be second guessing injecting their kids with mercury-filled vaccines. So they put out this ridiculous thing saying mercury may actually be good for you. But just to go back on the point that guy made of make your public relations campaign not actually look like a public relations campaign. So keep that in mind. That could be in so many different places. Yeah, I mean, you have no idea. It's definitely just in the mass media, but they could put this stuff anywhere. I mean, they could just, give, like, just for example, just like this, what we just saw, the journal of Pediatrics having some study saying that mercury is good for you. So they'll masquerade as some scientific study or, something, but whatever the article benefits, that's why you always say look to who benefits whenever there's something being done. Who benefits from this? Then you can usually find out who perpetrated it. You say, look at 9/11, who benefited? Well, the military-industrial complex benefited greatly, so they're a prime suspect. All right, that's a great, simple philosophy to live by. Who benefits? Look at the money trail, basically. Man, the more I research Edward Bernays and the public relations machine, it just is dawning on me further and further how huge this is to understand the state of the world that we are in today. And just to see through the propaganda, you got to understand the mindset of these people. I know it's hard to read their writings. Trust me, I mean, after studying like what this Edward Bernays propaganda, it's just like, man, how could someone be so cold and ruthless? Well, that's because they are being controlled by supernatural forces of darkness, but that's a topic for a whole other show. But you just gotta try to wrap your mind around the huge public relations propaganda campaign in America and the rest of the world, and how it is just totally, people are so manipulated by this. I can't stress it enough to you. So I'm just gonna read a few more things that Bernays has to say about this, and yeah, it's really quite revealing. So here's one quote. It's page 59. Who are the men who Who are the men who, without our realizing it, give us our ideas, tell us whom to admire and whom to despise, what to believe about the ownership of public utilities, about immigration, who tell us how our houses should be designed, what furniture we should put into them, what menus we should serve at our table, what kind of shirts we must wear, what sports we should indulge in, what plays we should see, what charities we should support, what pictures we should admire, what slang we should affect, what jokes we should laugh at. Wow, so he says, who are the men who, without our realizing it in beginning, and then he lists off all the things of how they influence us. Well, who are the men? Well, they're people like you, Bernays, obviously. I mean, they're the social engineers, the people behind the presidential campaigns, behind the big pharma pill pushers, behind the Department of Defense war on terror. I mean, these are people who have so much more control over society than your average person would be willing to admit. Because if you control what a person sees, like through the media, sees and hears, you can really mold their mind, and then you have your kids go to public school from a very young age, so they're being brought up in that system, man. This is our dilemma. This is why it's hard to wake people up. Well, they've been indoctrinated since birth, and just like he says, we tell them who they should admire, what jokes they should laugh at, everything. Okay, here's another one on page 60. A presidential candidate may be drafted, in quotes, in response to around popular demand, quote unquote. But it is well known that his name may be decided upon by half a dozen men sitting around a table in a hotel room. Yes. This is crazy. You guys got to read this book. I haven't even read all of it. These are just some key passages. So they choose. I mean, yeah, they own both players in the game. This is what the two-party, one-party system. So either establishment candidate they picked out, so they win either way, regardless of the party. And this is talking about, who decides it? Half a dozen men sitting around a table in a hotel room. I'd be willing to bet you that's actually, some people may think, well, he's just saying that to kind of, it's not literally that. He's just saying it's just some powerful people. No, I'd be willing to bet it probably is just a few people, sitting around discussing who their puppet candidate's going to be for the next election. I mean, who knows? Maybe they have all the candidates thought out, for the next few election cycles. Okay, let me go to the next one. The new profession of public relations has grown up because of the increasing complexity of modern life and the consequent necessity for making the actions of one part of the public understandable to other sectors of the public. It is due to the increasing dependence of organized power of all sorts upon public opinion. Governments, whether they are monarchical, constitutional, democratic, or communist, depend upon acquiescent public opinion for the success of their efforts, and in fact, government is government only by virtue of public acquiescence. Industries, public utilities, educational movements, indeed all groups representing any concept or product, whether they are majority or minority ideas, succeed only because of approving public opinion. Public opinion is the unacknowledged partner in all broad efforts. The Public Relations Council, then, is the agent who, working with modern media of communications and the group formations of society, brings an idea to the consciousness of the public. Wow, each one of these, it's very deep. I mean, so I think the last sentence kind of summed it up the best. The Public Relations Council, then, is the agent who, working with modern media of communications and the group formations of society, brings an idea to the consciousness of the public. Yeah, I mean, they present the ideas. They determine the debates. For example, what's a huge one right now, immigration. So I mean, you gotta look at behind what they're pushing. It'll be the flu eventually. Okay, let's go to the next one. The systematic study of mass psychology revealed to students the potentialities of invisible government of society by manipulation of the motives which actuate. In this case, it would be like World War II and the Germans using propaganda. they just simply changed it, and apparently most people don't catch on to that. And that's such a basic idea, but that's what they do, and it works. Because automatically, if you ever use the term propaganda, even actually propaganda in itself is not a negative term. Propaganda just means like information to push your viewpoint. So if you had just to sell their disgusting poison-filled vaccines, so that is what the PR mechanism here in America looks like. It's a worldwide thing. It's one of the globalists' main tools, public relations. So whenever you hear that term, try not to get nauseous from now on. And another thing would be like the war on terror. After 9/11, they had this huge viewpoint that we should not give children these disgusting vaccines, and you put it on some pamphlets and handed it out. That would technically be propaganda, but obviously we all know that's a very good cause, but you could still call it propaganda. So propaganda is not really a bad term. It just got a negative connotation because obviously the Germans in World War II and everything. So yeah, they just switched it from propaganda to public relations, and I guess the masses they didn't realize that it was the exact same thing, and they were just being manipulated further. So what does the public relations machine look like in real life? Well, remember last year during the whole swine flu hype and the massive propaganda pushing the swine flu, criticizing anyone who said it wasn't good for you, and then it's like a huge campaign. You can watch old news clips where they had this just insane hype, like, oh, swine flu is going to kill us all, get the vaccine, and that was big pharma, paying the major news companies and stuff to push this total BS scare tactic propaganda. I mean, they declared I think Obama declared like a state of emergency for the stupid swine flu, and